ngalungin silsil mara rogol at Clagelan Kenny, and welcome to Around the Table with the President. At this time, mo wa tel Michael mo Mr. Tiraliu and mo introduce themselves. Mo assistant ang claim, telargim, ng school girl, ng school, yung aspirations raw. All right.
Hi, my name is Borong Paulus. I am 17 years old. I attend PCC as a freshman. And my aspirations is I would love to be an entrepreneur one day. I've always had an interest in the business world, so I'd love to see where that will take me.
No, I'll just share. You know, when he left Palau, internship internship. Rebelaw, skura kwam, story, tell story, sponsor. That's how you went to school in Guam for high school before. Sponsor, a first sponsoring a man named Artero. Tiga Ulusers, Garbo, Water Buffalo. Mamle first amle Omar alaigal nuro sales. And then later on ngal rubaga nare insurance gel ukumle ban tosang arterial story multibadi rela magan ban tosang rastang blo say am the first time idea lo sensual strong. But anyway, has to start from somewhere. And you know, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. That's actually, it's about making those dreams possible. So yes. So please share. Yeah.
Ang clear justice yak 18 argig. My aspirations is sira kegral buyak all the orange saracho igal torawa Taiwan ma Australia ma igal gora friendship. Makoramlo sokalo gora pursue a career political science like international affairs. Koramo udara UN USA. Gora fascinate rangaling the gakarosel belue mokmage kadadue, you know, help each other financially, even just through people to people connection.
Yeah, maluin. In fact, that we're part of the United Nations, you know. Just to give you an example, Taiwan has 23 million people and they're not recognized. And we're very blessed to be 20,000 people and recognized as a nation. But with that comes a lot of responsibility, and one of those is to have these relationships, to build collaboration, but more importantly, to build strong partnerships that we can, you know, we depend on each other. It's a global world that we live in. And so we need more people in our foreign service. Time. So anyway, we need everybody everywhere, but Sula, for that aspiration. So maybe one day, you an ambassador.
Aling angkla Dira Antonio. Akmla to the school yung 19 argir. Mitsuba construction interested in start club science so engineering arbela we along sa infrastructural development there.
Yeah, Sula. Well, that's one field that the other belang engineers. And if you want a strong country, you need engineers. One of the things that I have to say, you know, over time, when it comes to education, we've improved. And so there's so many more people now that are taking up engineering, which is fantastic. So, Sula.
Mata malungit tasil sa ngakangklaka tilay ni kumrang termete tak senior Palau High School. I major in liberal arts. I'm also a member of various clubs and the SBA Association. I'm a very indecisive person, but my top aspiration would be to have a career in the entertainment industry, whether I'm singing on the TV, acting, or making a fool out of myself, as long as it brings a smile to someone's face. If that doesn't work out, I'm gonna stick with the media, because when I grew up, I listened to BFM, Waspay, the Marandi, So I wanted to be someone whose voice was heard on the radio. When I get tired of the media, I would like to be a teacher.
No.
Oo.
But you know, these days, anybody can be an entertainer. YouTube is the biggest platform, I see. YouTube, TikTok, so, yeah. Oh, amazing. To share a story, I was in Kauai, and they were showing us homes. And I went to one of these homes. القلادة من investor وستيراد الكيري are paying $18,000 a month in rent. So we went inside. The terun ميغر اللاذ. I mean, Admabil, probably 23 or 24 years old. So then so what do they do? Oh, they're like way up there on TikTok. and they fly around the world and they do like exercise videos and yeah. So yes, it's so easy now. I think that's the great thing about the internet. It's made everybody has the potential of being a star. So
Alinga angkla kireringi la ak 16 argi ge senior Vicente High School. I want to be a business owner in the future.
Entrepreneur, yeah. I see. There's nothing better than being your own boss. And yeah, you know, that way you control your own destiny. So,
Tasi president. Terpkuni rayas agoramal surumesetel age group perte agoramal mere like a borderline or a youth so 35 years old. Nga kind of school hindi ko uriyor. Yeah. So kaurel doktan ay dale Pacific Family Medical Supply. Nga member ay dale Bella Medical Society, Vice President tra Bella Medical Society, President tra Maristela PTA, as well as team member team Klamatra ay dale Hospital, as well as Medical Commissioner PNOC. So I've never planned as growing up to be in any of those situations. Most of the time, and you guys will see it, you build sort of a routine and a way of doing things. And we'll start it's like an aura, it spreads out. And you often get a lot of responsibilities. So group I think it's good to contrast the president stages development, academic development, personal development as they grow up. That's pretty long.
Most importantly, thank you for coming home. You know, say that the reminder here, go get educated, but come home. We need you to build a nation. So.
Maka 18 argi ke senior Vicente. Yak kakarengal meklo ang mansukatora marine biology lek. Dalaka uluyara aquarium mada makadrekal other omingel. So I've been surrounded with pretty much the ocean. And when I went out, I realized that I needed an excuse to come back home, and I think that's one of my biggest excuses is marine biology.
We live in paradise, but most importantly, we're blessed with what God has given us. And it's important to understand it. It's important to ensure that we use it sustainably and ensure that we pass it on to the next generation. Healthier than we received it, right? That should be the goal.
Hi, my name is Wanda Obakarbao. I'm 20 years old and I go to PCC as a sophomore in liberal arts. I'm also currently serving as the student trustee for the board of trustees at PCC. And I want to do something in the medical field, probably major in biomed and go into research. Yeah, but I saw that here in Palau, we do still need to work on our medical field and build up our healthcare system, and I want to contribute in that way.
Yeah, that's an area that we are continue to be challenged with. Not enough people, right? The Toktam. Yeah, in all fields in the hospital. And one of the good things is that PCC is building a new science building. We believe that that's a very important step in ensuring that we have people to help our health sector, because it needs people and trained people and qualified people. So thank you. Sula. Hindi mo makatukarang berikan ang berat. Hindi na dolo so.
Ali yang kang may kagiramur senior am senti 16 argi ya tarak labasan sa kan mo defense attorney.
Yeah. I see. Malangsong sa radar arbelaw so. And we need public defenders now. So Sula.
Ali militasil sa president nga kang klaka Shamiraru de Cruz di ada de umitsuweranga. El Altam 20 gig, and I'm currently serving as the president for the Associated Students of Palau Community College, or in other words, the student body.
Nice.
Yes, and my future aspirations is I would like to major in psychology and minor in sociology. And once I've gotten my master's, I would like to come back and contribute back to my country.
Oh, awesome. You know, one of the things that we have done is put social services from the Ministry of Health, because as part of wellness, social services is so important, especially mental health and making people happy. I think we need to be happy. We can play, we can entertain. We're always depressed, and we always talk about how bad things are. We should talk about how good things are, and more important than film. So Sula, that's great. It's like all areas. The only area that was lacking is, she volunteered to be a teacher. I always am looking for teachers, and so if all else, if you have something else and you decide, we always need teachers. Sensei. When I was young, and more rewarding than being a teacher, because you really see somebody change their lives. So interesting. I go around the campaign at Moram Rigel. They say, "Oh, mga naman mirao, besenser ka mo high school." You know, that's it. And so I always tell my mom how appreciative they are. So anyway, just a plug for teachers. But we need everybody. I mean, that's how you build a strong nation. Most importantly, you have to do what you love. You know, when I went to grad school, that's what they told us. They said, you come to get your MBA to make money. That's what it's supposed to be. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you love, and most importantly, give back to the community. And so, really, thank you. Sulang.
All right. Kamal din na introduction kamal mo inspired. Kamal well-spoken and youth. So I applaud you guys. At this time, lakas mo na question. I'm pretty sure magtaka question na kami. So, open na wala. Lalang sa nga Micah. Ask yourself first question na kami. That's the discussion na give.
So, a question na how do you feel about our population and how it's mostly compromised of foreigners who own businesses?
Di ako. Sulang na malungil kaya Micah. Ako trulang Maralwaise for the last 25 years. Well, actually now it's 30 years of the compact. But when they did the study in 2020, they talked about how 9,000 Palauans have left to the United States. Ako Maralwaise, one of the challenges ato siga teal. And unfortunately, beto ka teal ramrigel. Sira kegerek kiber belaw. And I share this because I think this is where it requires sometimes sacrifice on our part. Adamaga seral toder belal do sa akmara school. I'm gonna not return until I finish and get my degree. And when I get my degree, ang lilaran mo sa muta morbelo. And they, of course, ang alam mo bilar diram regel mo kasi kadamal di more than 2 years. But believe me, coming back home back in the 70s, I'm namringan. Dalaga gimlang altang temle sensera government, so gimle kera ping apartment. I don't know, only a ping apartment. And momre kera sirei. So actually, I'm like government housing until I graduated from high school and went to college. I share that so many times. No, he never wanted to give up. Whether he was trying to start a business or get a poultry going and they rejected his loan and they had to sue the government and then they agreed to the loan, but then he said, never mind. But, there were so many loopholes. And then, so one of the things that I've learned over the years is we have to find ways to provide opportunities. And the other things that he thought were important were, first of all, NDBP, having a bank that can give out loans. The other thing that was important was having a foreign investment board. Inviting investment other bela dapat si Imrul, di gelu si other bela Imrul, the protect the other bela. Mang mral mom kita ngut sir dom sa tokol shobal di shobal other ngot belo. But I think what we need to be able to do is dream that we should be the owners. We shouldn't be working tiabal wath. And if there's anything which is clear, I say tiabal wath. We can work hard, we can succeed at Telbano. Most importantly, we have to understand that in any business, no matter where you started, maringan. But I think if you put hard work into it, you can succeed. And what better place than to do it at home? Encourage I'm glad there's these two here that want to be entrepreneurs. And that's wonderful because that's what we need. We need more entrepreneurs. Because right now we're letting other people get the benefits. Who are we developing Palau for? It should be for Palauans. Whether if it's tuna fishing, let's encourage the tuna fleets to be Palauan owned, the Palauan run. That's one of the reasons why I supported the Marine Sanctuary when we closed it, because the close, by all digger tira, build local businesses, strong local business, because this fish rebelao, a clocker other belao, we get the benefit from it. So those that's the way I think. We need more engineers to come back and be more contractors. Foreign so the FI being another Chinese company starting a construction company. I don't think we need more of those. They need to be Palauan owned. So anyway, Qadi share, but it's just a matter of us having the determination to do it. So just a last story. Finally, in 1978, he was working for a company called MIC. MIC was a copra processing plant. His salary was 1/6 of Angel other Horiping. You should raise my salary because I'm doing almost the equivalent work. And no, very soon. So he quit. And he quit, I'm going to go out on my own. What was he doing on his own? He said, back to fishing. So, elementary, 6th grade, and then I skipped 7th and 8th grade. We would fish at night. I remember not the most sustainable fishing. But that was the big part of it. But high school and sometimes that's what you have to do. But that's where it starts. Other tourist, and then started a small store. But you have to dream big. And I think sometimes the masalo said we put a ceiling there and we're afraid that we cannot go beyond it. So it's not easy, but it's possible. I think sige da ba to tell message. So
Yeah, so I said, President, like it's not easy. And the reason why you brought up fishing, then I forgot to mention, I'm the Assistant General Manager for the Palau Commercial Fishing Company. So myself and my dad and basically my entire family, we're trying to start up a tuna fishing company here in Palau. Celebration radmaga walgora so provide ayedele qalal mura ta o ismu so ni president ta qalal ni the ukra side our medical science gida uspa ayedele sustainable food source make sure the healthy medical samal rely gal consumer ngana kelberan mi el dagal dil taga indira kan matlo ayedele wasar ma saka wa ayedele laura ringi cost of all the NCDs have revealed. It's not easy. Anga mloge me egerga dik tohtan ding aklamor sel aklamor realize masing you have to really work hard. There were times we failed on a lot of things, and they realized just 2 years back say we say overcome bla bla lang. Say that makes it much easier to move forward. Yeah, namo da gam self failure qabayn namo qurab bagaw di min mutmara amru lim mursal. Yeah, I will actually your story President Tamal, it's very inspiring. Very well off or successful Palauan story. While qaram le top the Michael Belau el mga school me mrong continue life and here he is na ngwa yedel position President Talungab. So anybody of us can be like that. If you put in the hard work. The utrikal taramal swagariya, the usul adman. Say that to me it's also my close to tell moving forward. Give it to help in tough times. Ngarang lungu o larsa muradios pang sabel gukko long aso. Le ruma segi de obagal budulu. But it's not hard, but it's going to be easier once you overcome these obstacles. Yeah.
All things work together for good.
Oh yeah.
I agree with the story being inspiring, and I think what a lot of us today forget that if you can dream it, and if you believe it, that's the only way you're going to achieve it. And when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, or at least I think that's how the expression goes. And something personally I've noticed is that, including myself, is that a lot of us are quite passive-aggressive, if that's the correct term, that sometimes when someone says no, you take that as your final answer. But if you really want something, you're going to fight for it. You're going to be like, no, I want this and this and this. This is how it should be. Sorry, I'm starting to reminisce with my conversations with my grandma when she tells me I can't go somewhere.
I see.
Yeah, but that's something, and I know a lot of friends, people I have interacted with, like even though they're not smart like book-wise, they still have like that sort of brain mechanism to like hustle, compromise. Like I once told my best friend, like, if you put your mind to it and like you actually kept it going, he'd be a great businessman. Yeah. Or a door-to-door salesman, because every time he comes to me trying to sell a bar of chocolate for a little side cash, I'd be like, no, I can't, I'm trying to watch my weight. But then he's like, no, it's good for you, you deserve a break. And I'd be like, okay, fine. But yeah, sorry, I'm not off track, but...
Yes, if that's one thing I learned from my father, especially if you know what you're doing is right, there's nothing wrong with fighting for it and never giving up and finding a solution to get it through. I mean, whether you're in business or you're in politics. And I can share a lot about our struggles in politics and how, at the end of the day, it's whether it's minimum wage, when my dad first proposed it in 1997. I actually proposed it before that. It was hard to get it through. So one of the things he did was he went to Diaz because it was stuck in the Senate. It always seems to be the Senate that holds up things. So it was stuck in the Senate de Oral. So he went and gave the senators numbers. Opposed to, at that time, Diaz had just returned to Palau. So he would be on the radio talking about them, and these are their numbers, call them. So, I mean, you have to have different ways of moving things ahead. And finally, he was able to pass it in 97. And then he tried to continue from 2008 to 2001, 2008 when he was senator. But Dad said Marayan. And then I tried when I got in 2008 to 2012, because you hear every excuse in the book. It's not the right time, mal expensive, businesses are going to close. That's always the story. And when we ran as a group of senators in 2012, we said, when we go in, we're going to change the minimum wage. And so we had enough of a majority. So we went in, first bill passed. So, you have to. Now this time around, we had to go through different hoops. But because it was also an excuse. We're in COVID, we cannot do it. So I said, if we can do it in the government, because I'm the government. So I said, no, that's not an excuse. We'll find a way. So we kept the budget the same, but we found $5 million to give to the states and the national government to raise the wages 75 cents. We proved it to them. And then the next year, compact was coming in, so I said, we need to do it again. And we proved to the senators and delegates that it can be done. So now, can you take care of the private sector because you forgot about them? And so finally, we were able to get it through on the supplemental. But you always have to try to find solutions and never give up, because you gotta believe in what you fight for. Sulang, thanks for sharing.
You brought up a really good point. Belakarang matu orang. Tipo askra Mr. President the people kora Australia se tal kofa kami lakarang ngwa approval sel vital klol bulu. Tim lakarang rong sao like orang so se kamal mlepto al hoops I get more through just to talk to the right person.
So I always share this in my town halls. I believe I say God always has a plan for us, and we don't see it today, but it's a long-term plan. So, experiences that I had over my lifetime really allowed me to be at this position at this time with the right team to get that compact through. I always share with people, we grew up at Tamara High School and the compact was going through. There was elections, there was violence. Because he didn't believe at the time we were getting our fair share. So I grew up believing that Radha Miguel took advantage of us. That was my belief. And it was still my belief when we got to negotiate this compact again. So I think that helped in my motivation. So one of the things, I was in college, house. And he gets frustrated and move. Unfortunately, what had happened was we had already signed an agreement. So they're not going to change it. And we thought at the time, but in the end, we found out that they changed things just slightly. And then, there was, finally it was passed. We got into it in Palau, and then we went to the first 15 years. Then the second year of negotiations came around. Fortunately, I was private sector, then senator. I saw some of the things that happened, which was President Terry signed quickly, and he signed. One of the things you'd never do is, you never sign as president, because you're stuck with whatever, because so some of the negotiation tactics that you need to learn. We fast forward to 2020, they got the process started, The good news is that Trump, so therefore, it ended, right? But there was already a deal on the table, and it was $400 million, and we had basically agreed to it. But the problem with the deal, as I saw, was it was $400 million, but they won't allow us to use the trust fund. So basically, they were telling us, we're giving you more because you get $15 million a year now, and we'll give you $20 million a year, but you can keep that $15 million and let it grow in the trust fund. And then 2043 or 2044, you'll be on your own. And this is something that always bothered me. Clearly states for military purposes. It says perpetual in the compact. We signed that. That always bothered me. So if you look at the structures of the first round and the second round, it was always designed that at the end, Palau gets nothing because we're supposed to graduate and move on our own. And they've convinced our political leaders that that's the way it should be. So one of the fundamental changes that I'm thinking kasi al-suma amrigel ospera blur belau. Kita kay nga seol mong eme. Ya, aklay nga ade ka di lumak pitang. Ngaram sel aklay nga sero ka maleko nga ade ka ula bagalel aklay nga sero ka mi nga atel gelel. So that was always in back of mind. So akti timra nga sura adios Caleb and I was 26, he was 20, maybe 28. In 1994, Albonia Transition Committee Compact. We had the opportunity to work together at that time. Fast forward 30 years later, and we happen to be in the position, and Ma'am Sadra Compact. I think God always had a plan. But was a level that we were able to work with, whether it's Ambassador Kyoto, Jeff Farrow. Together, that team is really what helped us, I think, set the foundation. But most importantly, you have to trust in what you believe. Trust in God, and then fight for what you believe is right. And I thank the OEK for saying, go ahead, if we need to spend $50,000 a year on those lobbyists, spend it. So you have the right team to do the job. And we took a risk, because when I first rejected the offer, the first comment I said, I said, we don't have to give them anything. Under the compact, we don't have to give them anything. I said, yeah, I know that's how you feel. So we started lobbying senators, Congressman Amrigel, showing our position and showing them our challenges and why we need to open the doors again for negotiations, why the United States needs to appoint a negotiator at the same level as ours. That's how we should be respecting each other, and that's part of the respect. And we need somebody from the White House to really be talking to Palau, that can have the authority of the President of the United States. And so we had to fight through that, change the negotiator. We said a lot of things, but I just thank God that we're in this place, and I believe, at least for the next 20 years, we have a solid foundation that you guys can rely on. And most importantly, the U.S. has said in this compact that will continue, but we'll have a review. We don't have to start with zero again. Because what we've been doing every time is we have to start at zero because they told us it's supposed to go to zero. And they've added things like veterans, like in-state tuition, like opportunities for our to get all those other benefits, social benefits that they didn't get before. Of course, now we have Medicaid and Medicare and all those other things when you're in the United States, or Guam or Saipan, their territories. So it's probably the reason why more people are moving to the U.S., but hopefully they will come back. That's why I don't talk about it too much. And then they say, ayamal betul kolte alang ngaram brigel lagi da, so da alu tell me.
Yeah. Elang mo katengal secure al year, el November. Ma karigol mo ka kung se what are your plans for the next 4 years? If you get elected again.
So Gida, I think the last 2 years, last 4 years. Gida, what we've been doing is we've been rebuilding. If you look at the tourism numbers, even before COVID, they were plummeting. Went from 116,000 to 89,000 in 2019, and then, of course, 40,000 in 2020 because of the Namura COVID, then 0 in 2021. It was on a downward spiral. We need to rebuild. We need to get out of COVID, so that was our first response. But now, how do we rebuild, and how do we rebuild better? And to do that, you have to look at short-term policies and long-term policies. Short-term, we've got to bring tourism back. We've got to diversify the economy. But we also need to build new types of industries in Palau, whether it's leveraging our internet, because now we have one cable, we have a second cable. Unfortunately, we have a $50 million loan that goes along with those 2 cables that we have to pay back. So we definitely need business to make use of that. We've talked about new ideas, right? One of them that we've already implemented is the digital residency program. It makes $3 million a year at really very little expense to Palau. Like the shipping registry, which makes $2 million a year at very little expense to the Republic. So it's about developing new businesses. And one of the things I've been talking about is the aircraft registry. Unfortunately, it's been sitting in the Senate for the last 4 years. It's been sitting there for 8 years before that. But anyway, it's things like this. We have to have ideas. We have to come up with solutions to the problems that we face. And then, I'm going to have a friend now say, you need to look at Palau's strengths and leverage those strengths. Our number one strength, we're independent. And because we're independent, what are those things that we can do because we're independent? Palau has the potential of being a financial center. What's a financial center? Usually the first country, that began this kind of work is Switzerland. But there's a lot of other small countries that are financial centers. In Asia, it's Hong Kong and Singapore. But we can be a small country in the Pacific, and they will provide services. It's high-paying jobs, minimal impact to the environment. Tourism is good, but the earnings per individual Palauan citizens is never going to be as high as if it's in finance. And you look at those countries around the world like Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, Singapore, their GDP is high because they're in those fields. So we have to think bigger, think about new ideas, new industries that we can bring into Palau. The Minister of Finance and I both have MBAs. So finance is something that we both believe in, and we know that there's potential. Whether it's the Palau stablecoin. Have you heard of the Palau stablecoin? Everybody tells me if you're over my age and above, they're afraid, right? If you're, watch out. We've got to learn and try to figure out how we can use that to our benefit. Or it's the Palau savings bond that we're trying to start. Or it's a corporate registry to attract foreign investment that doesn't have to necessarily be doing business in Palau, but it's doing business globally. There's so much business that happens on the internet that doesn't have to be anywhere. It can be anywhere. It can be located anywhere in the world. Whether you're doing YouTube content or TikTok or having a business online, all of those things you can do anywhere in the world. All you need is good internet. And so why not Palau? But we're not seizing those opportunities. So it's also an important election to look at those people in both houses and say, are they open to change? Or do they just want to do the same thing? Because if we're stagnant, we're not moving. We need to think progressively. And I know there's fears, and sometimes we're going to make mistakes, just like in business. But the most important is, do we learn from those mistakes, and how do we do it better? And that's what I always believe. So I guess coming from a business background, like I say, we need to open our minds. We need to try different things and see how we can create opportunities for our people, whether it's making sure that we have a fishing industry that provides food security, but also provides economic development for our people. Why do I promote a fishing industry? So that we can export fish, so I can put fish on the airplane so that tourists will be able to come directly from Japan. I mean, they all work together. But do it sustainably and make sure that we don't destroy what we receive. So it's doing those things to rebuild our economy, but the other side of it is also improving our healthcare and our education systems. We've already begun the process of creating a hospital authority. That's an important step because we need to move the hospital more to a private entity. It's still owned by the government, but run like a private entity. More flexible, so that maybe you can pay doctors and nurses more and be able to respond to problems that you have sooner. So that's something that's in process. There's a bill, there's a law, there's a hospital authority. We need to continue that. We have the money. We're upgrading the existing hospital, but now to build a new hospital. So that's also in progress. To build new schools. Well, there's still, but there has to be we need a new school at Babaldab that accommodates all the way through high school. We know that we are growing, and we're going to continue to grow, and Babaldab is where the growth is going to happen. So we have to think long term. How do we build a nation that people are happy, they can take care of their families, and this is where they can achieve their Palauan dream. You know, I said this in 2016, and we go to America because we're looking for the American dream, but we need to make the Palauan dream better than the American dream. And I believe it already is, but some people don't think so, right? Because it's up to us to come back and make it happen. I think the biggest challenge now is rebuilding a strong and resilient economy. We've already laid the foundation. That's the way I look at it, and that's why we need to continue, because I would say we cannot afford to go back.
I have one more question.
Right? If you're earning $5 an hour, do you want to go back to $4.25?
Of course not.
Yeah. That's the way I look at it.
Mr. Mom, that's maybe at time Aklib LRG would sometimes hold us back.
No, kita ako tulungan na constitution then they're supposed to and they go together. I think maybe that time it's sell to Aklib LRG politics. Kita ako tulungan na siyuang argid. So I know my role as a Palauan. And if we follow the principles, values, but unfortunately, that's what's been created. Because hindi ka problem around tirgidan memlari the mga certain. Hindi ka diri kan mamulo se. Tingan ang ligar dil, kita ngrado ulit ang ligar sal. That's what I've always been taught. Madamak gemal of course adala diri ng pang tiabalwan. Ding gotel swala drai. I mean that's the way he is. Celebrate tialbalu, se segan ora tialbalu like setia hotel. But you know, I think that's sometimes one of the things that I learned from him was it's always about giving back. I got claw back. It's about giving back. It's not there you don't get there to make money. You don't go there to gain from it. Mangesera, executive officer, even though he was elected, he didn't get paid. He never believed that you should get paid. Of course, mle fight ro se radang pang bol senkyo mol bola ka kloba al se la government rangat. I mean that's how to separate it, because sometimes that's where the conflict starts. And most of us sakti direct ti alalu sa senkyo rangat pang moral you know, a bit of time we have to be honest, because I think part of the problem say that's where the conflict arises. And tanga kalto yung di tiga roba tiga wal adam taba parte ablu girin no sara ablu degal girin morsel malang liwulir. You know, I think that sometimes the impression is we get, but that also applies to public service. The Border government, it's about giving back. We can make so much more money outside. You know, I recruited people to be ministers that were making much more money in the private sector. It's about giving back. That's why we asked them to come in and work to give back. And that's what we need to restore that. Let's say the part of kainga seu ablo motmage imgadru ablaad oren te motmage egin rohosi tiara lo blani ilme. I'll just share a story. Sel time adama executive officer ngirat yat besong argam siger sel time mle governor one al tongo, and they got here. When we came here, I walked with them sel time Akana High School. I walked with them over the hills in Mirtia with the CBs. Our CBs say, we need $3 million to do the road. We don't have $3 million. So I'm not thinking, what CBs cannot do, what pang can do. CB can do. But how did it happen? Every weekend, one weekend, the next weekend, the so it was manual labor. So we need more of that. And I think but now it's all about me. What is the benefit to me? And we need to get away from always thinking about ourselves. Let's think about the community. Let's think about all of us. Anyway, so hopefully I answer that question. Yeah. Back to the way it was supposed to be. Balanced, yeah.
So sorry to take us back a little, but I wanted to ask you about your plans for the cost of living here in Palau.
And it's a very good question. I think sometimes so we think it was debate Biden Trump. So Trump can talk about the cost of living because he does have control Biden over a lot of things. The world economy, they have control over it. Give me an example. Security meeting at Blue Regal, and they had all the Pacific Islands there. And they got economists that are in this security briefing that were briefing us. It was a number one challenge that we're facing. This was 2022, 2023. I think it was September of 2023, we were there. Number one challenge we have is inflation. The Ukraine war is raging. It's still raging. Why is it a problem for us? When inflation is going up, it creates poverty issues, especially in developing countries, which then causes possibly outbreaks of violence and war. So, okay, I didn't know this. Ukraine is one of the major suppliers of American Blue. And their number one place to export to Africa. So they were concerned about Africa because now the price of food is and so I saying, of course, I'm short with Ramregel and every place else. That's why prices go up. And I commented from, I just have a question. Before America produces lots of fuel and can produce more. Makasi, why don't we just pump more oil? Why doesn't the US just pump more oil? And what happens? Putin doesn't get as much for his fuel. I see. And the core to almost everything that we use is fuel. It's in our ships, it's in our cars, it's in our utility, it's everywhere. So you know what the answer was? It's a policy question. Now, we don't have any control over that. We cannot control the price of wheat, we cannot control the price of fuel. Now, there may be an argument that's being thrown out. I say, oh, it's PGST that's caused the big increase. The reality is, at the most, on average, and the economists have done studies on this, it's maybe caused an increase of 2 to 3%. And that's why at the beginning we mitigated it by reducing sell income tax and paying other order, and then we were giving tax refunds and benefits other ways to help other Palau to compensate for the change in the tax, to make sure that Palauans were coming out ahead. That was the goal. But the other thing, Dodong Lil was saying, that we have no control of is, because we have no control as a government, then make sure that wages continue to be increased to ensure that people can take care of their families. So that's why we've done already 2 wage increases, and I believe is we need to continue to raise wages. I mean, there's all kinds of things being thrown out there, but you know, it also ends up to where you're going to get the money to do it. You can go and say, child subsidy is too low, I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you more retirement subsidy. I'm going to do all of these things. And then I'm going to cut taxes. And really? So how are you going to pay for that? I know how you're going to pay for it. Is who are it's you. Come here, you are going to pay. We have a responsibility not to burden our children. We need to do better to provide them hope for the future, not be saddled in debt, and create those opportunities that they need. So hopefully hindi kalsal ka mga answer nga. But let me tell you, we were on an old tax system that taxed food, it taxed everything. You didn't see it, but it was there. We changed the tax system. The new tax system plugs the holes. It's fair and transparent. And I don't believe that lowering taxes is going to solve the problem. It's just going to mean more money to big businesses. Because are they really going to lower their prices? Probably not. But what we can do is make those big businesses pay more to their employees. And that's why we began that process by going to $4.25, $5, and let's keep the wages going up. Because we know the cost of living is going up. So just to give you on the compact, one of the things we were able to build in this time is the inflation adjustment. So if you look at the compact, it's designed, there was this year, first year was 20 million, 10 million for infrastructure, 10 million for, infrastructure and maintenance. And then we have a trust fund that used to be fixed, that you could only take 15 million out. Now they allow us to take 4%, up to 4% out. And what that means is that as it grows, you can continue to make more. So today, the total that we took out is a little bit over 45 million from those 2 sources from the compact. By the time it reaches 2043, it's over 60 million. So the goal, so that's what I talk about, building a solid foundation, because this is not what was done before. It was a fixed amount because nobody took into account inflation. So one of the things that we did this time is, in this compact, we said there must be an inflation component. So that's why every year it goes up by a certain amount to help mitigate so that wages can continue to rise in the government, people can continue to meet those demands that they need to take care of their families. So, Sura, thank you for the great question.
So, one of the biggest issues today is like people my age, like using like drugs and alcohol, and I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Sula. So, Seldungura substance abuse, and we have to address it from two sides. One is supply, so that means cutting off the access and bringing it into Palau. The other side is demand. So demand is trying to get people to make better choices or deterring them from doing it. So, Ablada Ba'lil Uriora on the cutting off supply. 2 years ago, we created a coordinated border management team. That's made up of customs, immigration, labor, police, health. Why did we do that? Because we got to look at all areas of how we protect the border. So some of the improvements that have been made is now we have electronic processing at the port through a system called Asakura. We now have electronic facial recognition at the airport. Why is that being done? To ensure that we know who's coming in. And then just a couple of weeks ago, finally our Interpol access now works. So now we can type in any name and get the information. What we're trying to do is link that with the biometric scans that are coming into the airport so we can identify the people that are coming in. The other thing that, of course, we can never stop. So I'm sure I haven't heard too many complaints. The manla increase detailed checking at the airport. Marada, but unfortunately, baby that made bad choices. And just like TSA, now we have to take off our shoes. Everybody's got to go through this painstaking process. And one of the good news is that Shiabura Shiabal has agreed to give us more X-ray machines, portable ones that we can use at the port, here at customs at the airport, and at the post office. Program with dogs. We also believe it, I said, the number one thing that we need to do is we need to have integrity at border protection. So for many years there have been drug testing, and people say, well, maybe these people are involved, or we have there's possibly users that are protecting us. That's probably not a good thing. So that's why finally we have these random drug tests. We were able to expose that it is a problem. I think one of the things that we need, they're not passing it because I don't think anybody wants to pass it right now. It's too close to the election. But you need to pass a law that says if you're caught with these hard drugs, using them, should be automatic termination. Why do we want it? Why do we want the penalties hard? Because that's to deter. You don't want people to lose their jobs. That's the last thing you want because they have to take care of their families. But we need to make sure that the consequence is there. That's the goal. We also need to help on the education side. We need young people to know the dangers. There's programs like LEAP. We need to increase our outreach for young people especially because they're vulnerable. We need to help them understand the risk, understand the challenges. We also need to have programs for mental health. Part of the problem is why we end up substance abuse. We cannot solve our problems. So we may end up self-harm is one solution, which is not a solution, or using substance, whether it's alcohol, cigarettes, and then marijuana and harder drugs. So we need to, finally this year, OEK once again, has been stalling on giving money to public health. Has increased the budget a little bit. Outside is so that we have money. Help improve IEL programs for mental health and hire more counselors and have rehab programs. But we still need more money. So that's why we reformed our tax code, so that we can capture more, so that we can increase those kinds of programs. And the other thing that we need to do is get people to have healthy activities. One of the things that we've been working on is building more recreational facilities. So if you look in Ngaria, one in Adorairai, we're helping Emmaus build one. We're helping Palau Modakngay to build another one. There's going to be one in Ngaralong. Pelilu's getting theirs rehab. There's going to be, we're trying to get one done in Arbed after they fill in at Arbed. Finally, Miyuns will have a covered facility and hopefully now weightlifting. So you need to provide activities, you need to educate, and you need to have the counseling. And then hopefully this early next year, the jail correctional facility, and that needs to be finished. We need to then help our kids that are there to have programs to get educated so that when they get out, they can get other jobs and not get back into the same cycle. So it has to be comprehensive. Those are things that we need to work on in the next 4 years. We've worked hard to bring in the money. Now we need to start implementing programs that are needed, that have been a long time in the waiting. So, Surangel with question.
So I ngakabla mawatak tal athlete ne start low yakyu and then ne ngwa mo stolen basis sa ko yakyu mo rahli lik ma adara tra kam recruit nga mo remote tra so kikita recruit tra mo like up to 3 years ago ya na stop and I'm getting back into it. The I realized lo say like all my athletes get at the most over a certain level. We don't compensate their time. Don't rabela the volunteer work. Usually our other athletes have, you have to work. You have to support your family. Is there ways of other open office specifically for athletes, maybe in high school, so other target athletes, compensate them for their time and practice? Apart from PNOC, so develop other start like career for athletes Rabelao, represent Rabelao, one represent Rabelao, or at least a compensate the time in practice, my time el tir Rabelao and the gadil lola offer tira get paid plus like rama bilama gibol and the balik maharaw. So it's a lot of time and money out of our pocket.
So we do spend a lot of money in sports. Last year was like over $1 million. This year it's another 1.2 million to support the Pacific Games. Besides the money we give to PNOC. Maybe what we need to do is work with these federations, because each federation has an PNOC, and maybe because that's all run independently of the government, and then maybe work with them and say, okay, this is where we see you're going short, and I like the suggestion, or say, how can the government supplement or help develop athletes? Because it's hard for them. I know, for example, if you win a gold medal or you get like $1 million or something. So you have to have those kinds of incentives will help. And yeah, I agree with you. At least some kind of stipend or something. Yeah, because it takes a lot of time. And we wonder why and then they give up. Yeah. So maybe we can learn of some models from other countries and try to adapt some of those programs here. So, Kaylin, you can come back and start that program for us.
My question is, well, as a young Palauan myself, I'm also lost in what I want for my future and what I want for my dream. What I want to ask is, what is your advice to the youth on to how they can find and accomplish that dream?
Well, I guess for me growing up, my parents always had certain things that they taught us. One, you have to trust in God. Never compromise your values and your principles. Number two, get educated. Achieve the highest education and do what you want. Do what you enjoy. I think that's important. But get all the skills you can to accomplish that, what you enjoy doing. And then I think hard work. There's no substitute for hard work in whatever field that you have. And then the sky's the limit. It's up to you. But if you don't do those things, it's hard. It's up to each individual. But sila best advice pas kami kasi ngiram المرورة تقول السمريانية سوام لما المرال مري لما مرور every day لكم سمريانية لكم سوام مرور so مسا يجل سوام المرور تقول ترى مسا تيال career مؤثر تيال gururi and then that gives you the motivation to go to work every day so lang ang here.
I just want to bring it back to what Gaylan mentioned about compensating athletes, and I think that's like a great opening and another option for people who are looking for another source of achieving financial stability. Like I know a lot of people, if they were to find out that, hey, I can make money by just running on a track or hitting a ball across the field, they would go for it. Because not only is it something that would bring them money to support themselves or their families, but it's also doing something they love. Because there's that one Chinese, I think it's a proverb, find a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And for me personally, that's something I believe in, especially now starting to have a work study with the media at TMC. Because even though it's stressful and there's expectations that are put on my shoulder that I don't want, it's something that I love doing. And I think I just want to bring it back to the topic of substance abuse and distribution. I know some people wouldn't want to choose to go that route, and sometimes they only go that route not only for it to relieve the mental chaos that's going on in their head, whether it be stress from school, home, or some other source, but it's also quite a source of money coming in by just selling.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And I really hope that not only the government or the OEK or whoever's in charge finds ways to open opportunities and other routes for not only the young generation like the youth, but also the adults who are still trying to figure out what they're doing with their life to kind of go for Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, it's one of the reasons why we need to have a Ministry of Human Resources, because it's about connecting people with opportunities. And it has to start with the simple jobs. It's interesting how his experience ended up being all the businesses that we're in. So, when he was taken out of school, that's what his grandpa had him do. And then Morakwam, after he was he moved to another sponsor's house, restaurant. And then after that, construction, electrician. I mean, all those different experiences helped build the skills. He ended up doing what he loved. And we're so proud of Blay, Madris. Because he's evidence that I said we can make it. And he's coming, by the way, November 9th in Merbelao. He's going to be here for a couple of weeks. But to inspire kids, I said there is opportunity. You just have to dream big, and you can make it. But he can tell you it wasn't an easy journey, and still isn't an easy journey. It's hard, but it really takes commitment and dedication and sacrifice. So,
being an athlete myself from before, it's definitely hard putting the time, especially if you're going to be a student athlete. So there are that aspects. It's sort of not necessarily a question, but sort of more of a shift to the topic of students and people who go off to outside of Palau and get training. Blind Madras is one of them. To point them out, it's Rodman Teltul achieved the fastest time for Palauan in the 100 meters at Olympics. It wasn't a gold medal achievement, but what it showed is a Palauan person, with the same training as every other developed country in the world, achieved that time. Game Nora Australian more high intensity training institution. Build up and more say the level of athleticism. So going into that, shift President Misadra, human resources. So like they comment or like a suggestion maybe la Cuba school. So every year summer PNSP the government at that time it difficult I don't know, I mean we was one of the professional fields and highly mal dos penir since the move to Mara 4 years. That's also if I think it's a when you get back into office for the next 4 years. And Walgora Solomon Sabella focus more start to pick out the Walgora necessaries of fields, professions as well. PNSP receive funding legislative executive branch and more help cater malubang fund the students in the medical field, law, my STEM fields, science, my engineering. Most of the puller till merbelau development travel. Another thing too, another question saying last of the government more forgive loans specific professions like medical field. Most of it work it off somehow. Some sort of a funding mechanism for the Mirbelau provide the level of specialty. I believe healthcare the bus doesn't drive itself. The Tengiburgida doesn't run by itself. It's humans. It takes humans to run all of these things. We're vulnerable to psychological stress, biological stress, social stress. So I believe develop the healthcare system and maintain a tailored workforce. Development. So to kind of summarize, it's really 3 points. I think Sabella government and moving forward and help maybe a loan forgiveness or help pay out maybe loans of the specific specialties. Also time real identify the needs of Blur on top of the programs specifically more those and more attractive and more awakeable more thing. Also continue brain gain and not the brain drain.
Nice.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Luase. We need to review what PNSP is doing. One of our challenges in the last 4 years is we haven't had the money. Now, we have a little more money, and the great news is that the in-state tuition it's cheaper to go to school in the U.S. So hopefully they should have enough money now to target. And I think in the past it's mostly tuition of active students and they're kind of stuck in a box. But and got student loans that are outside PNSP because PNSP they're all forgiven. But we're talking about other loans. If you get those loans, we should have a program and help them pay them off. For every year of service, they come back to Palau. Other countries do it, we should do the same. We should be collecting more for foreign workers and mesois through labor payments. Some ideas. A UAE charges $5,000 per foreign worker for a 2-year permit. Singapore charges $200 a month. We charge $250 for 2 years. Surangel Senate, I tried to raise it to $500 to double, because that money goes to scholarship. All of it goes to scholarship. To double the scholarship money. And $500 for 2 years is nothing compared to UAE at $5,000. We passed it on second reading in the Senate. It went to third reading, and they moved it back to $250. We don't have the political will to make those tough choices. Oh, mas aralak lalo. In the grand scheme of things, no, that's not going to impact the price of eggs. You won't even see them. But we always use that as an excuse. But these are important policies that we have to have the political will to do. We'll channel resources. So it does two things. One, I call it like a syntax. But then provide looks global help so they get the training and the education that they need. That's the kind of problem solving we need. Singapore. Don't we want to be like those countries? So you got to take the best practices and say, how can we adopt them so that we can improve the lives of our people? And like I said, cannot just be the president. We need the OEK that also shares the same vision, that's willing to be bold. So when they come around and ask questions, you have the right now to vote. Say, are they willing to take a stand? Are they willing to make changes that are needed? Or so sulang. We need resources to help, whether it's doctors, athletes, because we should have student athletes. Same. So sulang.
I guess one of my biggest concerns as a youth, a Palawan youth, sa Laurel Ablulad mo yung ditchen sa Ablulad. So as the advancement goes and we try to keep up with the rest of the world, how do we preserve our own Palawan identity?
So that is our biggest challenge. Di ba yala di ulo ko tora mrigela. Kung sa kami beto na ulo ko tora mrigela mbrare. Ding bral gira da mobla garong dulos pa tingin. Nga teo isar serak perbelang edergik. Turning 4. Timla ko din tor belang. Akna skura SDA, timla ko siya ka tor belang. Ninsi kam lo tor belang lagi mo yung tor belang dimla katam ko la Palawan class. Ilang nga rin ang mala Palawan class. Dahil sim lo tor belang. Lang hindi ka speri. Ay kau to lang gira dal mo ngani sel pride ri wase ang other belaw samriya mo ko tingit and you know kadangal tangat tending nga rubukul belaw man masil belaw. This is where they should be leading. Kadadrigal lo moral wase when it comes to education, yeah, they can only do so much. Ngari gel si remul ndi kloria adrigal tuira ablay. Gira adrigal milisi irtial ulspela tinga drablit. Nakplara ablura Seattle, Washington, and they invited me to one of these Christian fellowship meeting at a Saturday night makmlong. Yakpong tabal ngaram rigen, tigar adori samal rengalgal high school and less age tire. Truritial program tira gerasial di Palawan na roger. Mga mintakal tor bela, mga dur tor bela. Leta teroider bela ding soril milisi irsel kli bela artin. Igi tangar bela tial igi baigi de los pe tor bela bebra ta mga di mol mortu akle. So mausubes mral ngar ale der rogoi. Ngar ablay gira de milisi ra school ako mutan mora teletara awdo mlamane enough fludo their education ilagira them lisinia girma toga we have to have more educational materials teaching Palauan stories helping selek bong odorayal al UN and around the world gotel swagalo spe al dur bela len it can notice gora togubets el teletre dar bela we like more al dul because they share morals and ngari angil balugul the subri mrang ada rogui and sulang remind there moles pala model sa mlo tor amri dim lo tor bela
sepak yo ya ngira suba tora sabang yo no saben lo mesrar smer modur tegal smer di serabo suba tora sabang yo le wais mal ngdmo tiga bira togol gida ndaga tiye del momsa da la dim sa los pe amant el dadu di sedar kutul tul mer bela bogu rotor bela boxtat tamel asora بالغلا يا التيغ ان مرتبو التل التلتين التور بلاو ديمقراطية يا التل سيل the pronounce إذا وليس رغورا مرينا pronounce يا التيغ ورا هواي they built شابالا they don't have an L mal phonetic دي كذا قتل دغا CH ما L دي السيلة دي إما word it's a tongue twister mal challenging قتل proud solo Spanish solo otilo se teltinga mas better than French Spanish ma ashavala len mal uniga tetela se don do torbe qadi un mar sayid le sodi otimnaya adal naya ida le youtube netobdem yago mesni ngar adam le translate tel el torbe la se btiga un gorgau el motor americano la I found my heart in you من وجه يد الغرة بالغرة تقول بلا وسلبهم الأسرار سلب الغرة مرت بقول وهذا شو هذا ذولي سيلين قد غرة من مستر رميدة تقول بلا ومدرسة ذاك بغليل أو داسو لأن ذا سويدر مع المرة بيبيرة
من سأقول دي بليت واسه أول من سأقول من تقول بلا أرسلك الروغوي أمي لغة تقول بلا مرة هذا النهار بتنا قديم لغة تقول بلا من كلو تطلع دوسيا كران لقيه ده يقول ده ليسي ران لقيه ده واسه هذا دول دي تقول بلا رادرون وليم لدوري ده تيجيات هم بس نمدا قد بلا مامورة تيجيات ما يقال ترى ده رادر بلا يقال لكتوب سما شوغان أريد دران رامول ميا مكلو تطرل توليسي شولا كذا تبلغ الملغوريدو سكذا تلا الراغ روري ورقوام رقوام عملوا له يدي التغيير لا تمرين الموترو الجيسني كذا دي قال شو هذا مويسي غير هذا مويلا قبل ما تريده اول بيل ما دي لو تور بلا دي كده قام بيك راس هذه مو لو تور بلا قال قبل ما قال بريس كونفرنس قال تقول لي موساد
So amle one ragariga wase I'm planning to further my education outside of Palau مرغون الموت المي كذا شغان إذا كذا هذا بلاو هذا كلمة there هذا بليد so I was wondering that if I did come back and I had my degree and I could sustain myself ngania possibility nga al sabel kel ilyaqal blay seklutel mer belaw
so there are several things that kind of bibira tokol sa dal marun atanga tomin sa dal bes school no bes hospital ataram ne sa dal السيجا يجي الأوتم البسكيت المقلوب لك كويس ستوري أبينج أبارتمنت ما أسيري أيام لا بلا رقابلمنت بلا تي إنغار بيترا أسكول البني رقابلمنت اللي قبليري and then kind of a transition place أقوم رأسي we need نجرن غاري يجي so ترى يد مريء غاري يجي تروح بيبي رابلا transition but at the same time أضرورية عملاسم مرور عرال مارال مدنجيل مرابطه الأوتم موسيدر مدور عبليد أولا كلو تطلع سل بلاو سيفينغز باند غاري أنا غارا يكريل بلا سي ناو سانو مدور عبليمام ربلا غارتيه نسامل لون امرو ساتر مدور يجيل بلاي ولا اندي بي بي دخل هنا فوضى غاريل الدورتو ما أولا قدام مرة سعودي أرابيا أنتير سل مال غاريو انترسترين لون Sorry, hindi ka sa Senate. Ito ka issue na Senate. But anyway. Mukhang naman sa trigger progressive, mga regressive. But anyway. So we need those financing. We need to get the infrastructure in place. Kada malmol malmalisi ay. And especially adrong la airay and more capital. To infrastructure get the level primo. Beto ka apasyon siya adrong motor abli dari leng akmadani. Sebo dili akal blad rutin merme da kira blair bibrad dal sebel mal maringen. So it's a priority. Sulang ra wilger.
So nga ka question nga ka el atigal other Miguel el Kerbelaw nanya sense nga ka other Miguel haratak sa Miguel. Makuger git pung sub ML vote ang mundiak. Ditigal other belal kiram Miguel atigal haratak ding sub real vote. And I think one of my biggest questions was, although we're a small population, small island, and we may not have the resources like them, would that be possible?
They have a tax on worldwide income. Over there's a number. En girem el peat tax en mora blur amrigel el direct matangar bela logro es el rich galan goy de mem telalen girel ok pe tax en mora amrigel kida amrigel kida enforcer tiralla gorang ani sel do so se triga dirga adar belao tiga ru dertir andera otemel alla argiden sel lamal tela adal senkyo angara otemel alla argiden rogul adar belao adi blado ngadia wasing ngirelu tu al sumangana krea blur belao eng by absentee only di kita namesang tokal blur da applying differently another time wase al sum senkyo at least ebera blur taiwan am senkyo al sum kadra taiwan so you know tarayel tol require a constitutional amendment and something that كده أجيرد المطمئن ياسين مال ترتقي على ثم دخل حارة تقصى آدم رجوه إنغاري على مالتل decide a future below. So that's a question. That's a moral question that we need to ask. That was the question. Boston Tea Party. This was the opposite. The fight the taxation without representation. The representation without taxation. Di akmadura tol adana like krea blur bela and I think sel lurungulira set magral mutel may so they want to participate in the process tigamal mol mol duro claudo del merbela so we shouldn't discount that they still care and they're still affiliated with Palau. Maybe they got through tax dollars di tol nga sera shuang tol nga sera radrablir selbone nga song sertir so it's something that needs to be debated, but it's ultimately up to the people. Is it time and I guess for now, kumra lo say ngara otemel alla el mistrira rogul citizens revela la mertir senkyo, and we should find the most easiest way to do that for them. So right now it's absentee. Maybe electronic voting can happen in the future, mobiot, but as electronic voting. The question we're going to have is, 16,000 are registered voters. More than half of them are That's a lot of power. So it could change things. And those are tough questions that we need to ask ourselves. About electronic voting, do we want everybody everywhere voting? So it's a big debate. And so we appreciate them. We appreciate what they do for Palau, and we appreciate their desire to come back home. So, akti adi guling terniya ase alsum kom senkyo at least make sure you're kamong the issue rablur belau. Beauty internet rela at least we have YouTube, we have Facebook. We have TikTok, Palau Forum. I get away. So, batoka, nama batoka te little mesa. Mumbai was saying what's happening in Palau. And I think siya close to tell. Close to tell siya senkyo en senkyo el base raklaw marang argaw mo modangali. Lakang base ra siya ga adak. Mle house party nga. Mle ruliang ralgira. Base it on the facts, my issue. Pangungin mal bodo. Le senkyo argaw agire laklu argaw teka dilgaw marang aligyon marang. And this, especially this election, I think it's really about choices. And the choice is, to me, I'm simple. Is it about going forward or is it going backwards? And very differing opinions. So, take it, and I hope that's what we vote on. It's not on something else. About a relative, nakamal dibitang. Bora sungod mora dependra family rabi abid mendri kada kal dipend. So nakamal talmal ra gigid tablol calculation. Akmal dir tuira ne arad maklaw marastir. So that's why and I think this election is about sharing facts. And Kumral was saying man mo help to mature as a nation. Everything is available. Maybe sometimes you're not accountable for it. You just bring it back and show, this is what you said before. And I think that's a great thing for democracy.
Great. Now I'm contemplating if I want to ask a quick question or if I want to move on with the closing remarks, but I'll just say my thoughts. I'm very glad and fortunate for this opportunity to speak with you. I'm also very glad this is such a great group. Honestly, I'm happy you brought up what you brought up. I'm happy you brought up culture, and voting is something that was not on my mind, but it really opened all the possibilities and the fact that there's other things to talk about. I'm just going to stop it there. I'm not an athlete. I don't run, but I am known for running my mouth more than I should. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank you all for being here. And yes, this is how I will close. Thank you.
And so, President, first of all, I'm sorry I didn't invite the name. It's تركوا منك سورة سن تنغرابو دو صادريرا السيلس عندي سيدنا مراد discuss era the main en يجي بيبدين la topics يا والغرا نسوم المصادر لوجر قال جيرل دي أدرك مالغان سؤال bring it up بودو هذا أو سنير ترغانا إلى generation أو بدنا بيلار سلتام لقناتك هاي سكول مالغودا سلتام دمنا يوتيوب دمنا إنترنت هذا ما PCC library مرة سوبلة ma yele library de Palau school ding to opportunities there kapto issues mong awdasan aktrek summary el partra uk plan na so amra develop succession development plan ligir our ngal mura a healthcare field mal sol mestir tirgal gora mal lotob da the stream osinira belar al time spell change in 5-10 years so they continue الغرة دي part سيد الدiscussion hopefully ندير تتيغ الغرة مثلا hopefully ندير الغرة تمر الميرا يعيد اللي يجيب طول issues المرة discouraging issues رابوري ما housing ما يعيد اللي بقدرين لا politics سلام لبلا over politicized over governed أكمل واسم رياضي اللي سال جوك high school ندك تأقل ويصير الأضواء أمرس اللي جايب صادا أغرتونا يب صادا مرة أمغيدا يب صادا you know ما الموضوع discussion سر ما مسرائيم يغري suppose راو discussion سر مير الألتان that's just within my lifetime lifetime of president that's probably close a little difference so just want to say that ما مسار القرآن share all this
I just want to share was Surangel High School and I don't know, time, I guess because of we had just gone through writing the Constitution. So politics was like part of our life. Maging high school, by debate, kampak, the issue, by someone mo kakawadan the politics. You know, so it's interesting. So do you talk about these things? Yeah, you know, you're right. I guess it depends on what the issues and how involved we get. You know, tial level metmak, amral miskida a glimpse at our future. Umral was our future is bright, and I'm inspired. Was we're in good hands. You have so much potential, and I think abira time kada focus ayel kantila tokoy. The focus ayel positive. You know, I was talking to this ambassador from Denmark. Denmark is known as one of the happiest places on earth, if not the happiest. So, Europe was the first to have a value-added tax system. So what's your rate? 25%. 25%. And say, you know, and he's an economist and he has an MBA. It's the most efficient and best way to do it because the more you earn, as a percentage of income, you're going to pay more. But not only that, now contribute to our tax base. Makro, natarong ko lang ano kasi. Kita lang ako nakadingin mo 10%, maula na tamal kasi bandir. No, but you know, I think we should be thankful for what we have. Kita ko tarangal tangat talbalulang because sa rigel ngesol dollar ablu ram rigel, we don't have to pay for our medical care, our health, our schools, our for other activities. Because one lesson and a requirement tax. I was in Antigua Barbuda. Their tax rate is 17% for PGST. Most countries are at 15%. So we should be thankful that we can keep it at 10%. We now have a business profit tax. And I'm more thankful was you know, mitskida rubakal Dios, kadangal tangat talbalu. And we as good stewards need to take care of it. Mga hotel, nomra sikita ko tangat tangat talbalu. Kadangal tangat to have such promising young people. Angar aleda as a government is to alsumung dalom ngeda mo ayasingi mung sen mo bagradel, and that's what we should be doing, is creating that opportunity so that you can blossom, you can be fruitful. Mang akpral di mereng asuli ura time lang agal lugar mulger elang we're broad. Seng mral ngara abek kalbadangela auldaso. Nga mo subes nga malsokan mo do mak timing do el tomot time. Dik mereng asuli ura temim. El ukmei mgada do le umral wasi aulo ko martiang abal tigarambir ablur belaw. I think that's what's most important. As a leader, because bomb sector November 1st, that's what it's about. It's about making choices. A glimpse how do we think? And of course, we look for the opportunity to continue to, as they say, fertilize the ground, or the moya sagal the lom mo abagradel mo sa tolungi roda dongi. So compral musulang ya Dios lo makal tanga terkamiu no mol mo tanga trabalwat agal tinga damra tang twister se virata se sung tanga tor belan mo tor amrigele indi mol siksikta ngare ngoda do ndi compral ngire dan compral wa sel ngire dan lesiri kadamam ngalea asenne uchirgid sel value rigid and our uniqueness and most importantly sel goto klauto tren mori sel pride rigid other bela degal gida dan murura tigiya degal gida dan murura anything about us. Our Palawness is our uniqueness and what makes us special. Mang gira dam lisi ringi gira dal Samaria ringi toy. Gira man proud of sa other Palau. So sulang.